This episode is brought to you by members of the You Run Podcast Network, the Dewey Pod Monster, Voices from the Mausoleum, Pop Culture Reflections Podcast, Video Tasties, Movies for Days, The Ghoulish Gallery, The Aardvark and the Magic Moshi Do Red Dwarf, You Gonna Eat That Crust Podcast, The Girl and the Gay Podcast, The Horror Friendly Podcast, and the Paranormal Mysteries Podcast. All available at yourunpodcast.com. They are indeed, so go and check them out. Marc, what kind of farts does Sigorney Weaver do in the bath?
Ripley's?
Yeah, Ripley one.
Yeah!
You finally got one.
Yes!
Hey everyone, the You Run Podcast. It's the You Run Podcast.
You want to die tonight?
Scott, I think you know who the fuck this is that's talking.
Cancel Marc. I was terribly offended.
Because after all, this is not our show. This is your show.
111 episodes it has taken you, and you finally got one.
I reckon there's a good 10% of the episodes that we've done where you've made jokes and I've just laughed, but not quite understood the joke, but been too embarrassed to say I don't get it.
Oh, that's upsetting. Hello and welcome to Horror Movie Review, the intergalactic division of the You Run Podcast Network. My name is Scott.
And my name is Marc.
And we are the hosts of the original and the best fully interactive horror movie review show. Each Monday we review movies selected by you in our polls. We cover new releases every now and then when we feel like it or when we have time in our lives to go to the cinema. We also offer a host of ways for you to get involved, like 3-word review, TikTok talks, memes to make you mad. The best way to get involved is to go to yourunpodcast.com and click on the link to one of the social medias that you may have and follow us there. Also, follow Marc. He's on Instagram only. He is VHS from the Crypt and Reviews from the Crypt, and both of those accounts are fabulous. And I'm not just saying that because he is my co-host. They are good accounts that I followed prior to him being here. You can email us at yourunpodcast@gmail.com. Any email we receive, Marc will read on the air. If you'd like to hear him do that in a voice, he does those. He does accents. He does impressions for
We
emails.
haven't done that in a while, have we? I
No,
would
we
like to
haven't.
try that again, actually. I feel like I
Okay.
could prepare myself better now. Now I did my little bit of Spanish last week. I'm feeling very confident in myself. So email us in. Let us know.
Yeah, just send a tongue twister to Marc and make him do it in a foreign accent. You can also send us audio DMs on X and Instagram, and we have a few today. So where should we start? Let's start with this one.
Say also, because Campbell's taking a nap, and he's kind of got me nap trapped. Marc, at the end of the episode, he made sure to put emphasis on The Descent being a British horror. Marc, why you don't like Americans? I mean, I don't like most Americans either, so I gotta get it, but come on now. We know. Also, I've never seen The Descent, so who am I really to judge?
Right, okay, just to clarify on that, I wasn't being racist or prejudiced against Americans. My confusion lied with how Americanized the sequel was and my lack of understanding that the first movie took place actually in America. It wasn't until my watch of that movie that I realized the location was in America. Hence, when they come out of the cave, they're obviously going to be greeted by Americans, and Americans are going to be dealing with the fallout of the situation. So when I was growing up watching these movies, which I absolutely adored, it was very British centric in the first movie. And then I never understood why it was so heavily Americanized in the sequel. But now, as an adult and paying attention to the finer details, it makes a lot more sense to me. So I'm okay with it now. It was just my confusion growing up.
And I can confirm that Marc is not a racist. I mean, I've got this clip of him talking with his friends earlier today that I'm going to play you now just to prove that he's not.
I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall. Mark my words.
He never built it, though, did he?
No, he didn't. He didn't, because
No.
he got indicted about 1 billion times before he managed to get bricks down. We have another message.
Hey, Scott, just wanted to send you a quick message. I know we haven't been able to catch up lately. I've been super busy. I've been listening to your episodes, but I have not been able to share them to my story, so I apologize for that, but I am still here. I did want to say the Beetlejuice episode was fucking awesome, of course, and I am really excited to see the new movie coming out, but I also am very hesitant. I'm keeping an open mind. I'm definitely going to go to it. I just hope they don't do it wrong. That movie holds such a special place in my heart. Also wanted to say congratulations to Marc. How are you going to drop news like that? You and your wife are having a fucking baby. That is so exciting. I am beyond thrilled for you guys. So congratulations on that. Hold on, part 2, because it's about to cut me off.
Before we go into part 2, now I've had time to prepare. Congratulations.
Yeah, boy.
Okay.
Honestly, I just want to take a moment before we go into part 2 and just say a massive thank you to everybody who listens to this show, because so many people have reached out to me and said how excited they are for me and my wife with the announcement of the new baby, and it really means a lot to me that you all have done that. So I just want to say a massive thank you. You all seem a hell of a lot more excited about this than I am, which is great.
Let me see if I can cheer you up. Let's try it again. Congratulations, Marc.
Also, I'm going to have to disagree with
That's not it. We'll do it again. Congratulations. Congratulations.
I told you this soundboard would be the death of you.
Anyway, into part 2.
Also, I'm going to have to disagree with you guys about The Descent. I fucking love that movie, but I fucking hate Juno. She is not my cup of tea. Okay? She was badass in the caves. I will give you that. She kicked major ass. But what you did is unforgivable. So fuck you. But I also am very intrigued about watching the version that you guys watched, because I did not watch that version. So where the fuck can I find it? Anyways, I hope y'all are doing good. Just wanted to say I love you guys. I have not been posting on Instagram or TikTok lately. As you know, Scott, you saw a video on my TikTok. Grandpa's going through some stuff right now. We've been going to a lot of doctor visits. So if y'all can just keep them in your thoughts and some good juju, all of that, that would be awesome. But we're doing okay. We're still here. All right. Love you guys. Can't wait for the next episode.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's very sad to hear, Barry. I send all my best to Grandpa. The guy's a legend, and I wish him a very speedy recovery, whatever it is he's dealing with at the moment.
He is iconic. Like
Yes.
His reaction to horror movies is so much fun. So if anyone doesn't know, there's Lady Crisis, who's on TikTok and Instagram, and when Grandpa comes to visit, she'll sit him down and make him watch movies like Bone Tomahawk, and then film his reactions.
His Deep Blue Sea is still one of the greatest videos I've seen on Instagram.
Yeah, he's so good. So yeah, sending all the best. And no, I'm sorry, Mary, justice for Juno. Juno was the reason anyone got out of that cave. Without Juno, they all died.
Yes, and also just for a little bit of context, you don't have to watch an entirely different cut of this movie. It is literally just the last 30 seconds of the movie that is different from the US and the UK version. You can find it on YouTube very simply. It will probably save you an hour and 40 minutes of your life.
But it's a great movie, so go give it a rewatch anyway. Rewatch the movie, but then before the credits roll in the United States, pause it and fire up YouTube and play the clip, and then you've got the full cut.
Yeah. Exactly.
Anyway, if you like the show, leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. Spotify. I'm hungry.
I'm the one who's been in the pub all afternoon today. This should be me who's stumbling on my words, not you.
Tell a friend that you like the show and that they might too, and then they can tune in as well. And I just opened a beer. I don't know you. I opened it right near the mic. I apologise.
Yeah, I do it on purpose these days. It's fine.
Yeah. After 2 weeks of incredible guests, we have no guest this week. It's just me and Marc. Don't panic, though. We've got a great episode lined up. We have a review of a great horror movie, a ton of facts, a game, without a doubt, lots of interaction from all of you watching and listening. Also, if you are watching on Rumble, which is now the exclusive home of horror movie review in video form, please leave us a follow and click like, make a comment. Tell us we're great. Tell us we're not great.
Yes.
Anything. Just engagement. I don't care if you write, you two suck. That's fine, because it tells the algorithm that we don't suck because you commented.
And that's the case across the board. It doesn't apply just to Rumble. Tell us we suck everywhere. It means a lot if you do.
People do that. People do that on my Instagram and TikTok posts anyway. That's how I garner engagement. This week we polled movies that are popular, that are incredibly popular, that have never ever won a poll, and we had a clear winner. And it is borderline criminal that it has taken over 3 years to get this voted onto the show. Criminal. This has been in 50 polls. I checked.
That's insane. I keep saying this on the show, and I'm like, man, that's been in the poll so many times and it's never won. And I had this same appeal about Lost Boys because that took us forever to get that movie on the show as well. And then I was doubting myself. I was like, has it actually been in the poll that often? But yeah, 50 times is insane.
Yeah.
50 times you had the opportunity to get Alien on this show, and you blew it.
Yeah. It even went.
But then again, that also comes with the same kind of pressure now that we have to deliver something epic.
Yeah, no pressure. Well, let's get into it. Imagine a space RAC recovery crew on a routine towing mission. They're like a dysfunctional family bickering over coffee breaks, questionable fashion, choices in space. Then, whammo, they pick up a creepy hitchhiker from another planet. Let's just say this hitchhiker has some issues with personal space. And I'm going to preempt Mark for something he's going to say later. The hitchhiker's a little bit rapey.
Very, very rapey.
Yes. Chaos ensues and the delivery crew need to ditch their over-affectionate guest before they head home. Let's just hope it doesn't do anything crazy like growing massive and start eating people with a tiny mouth that lives inside of a bigger mouth. That's right. This week, no one can hear you scream because it's Alien. And if you're waiting for the trailer, there isn't one. And the reason there isn't one is because the Alien trailer from 1979 is a beautifully shot trailer of space, the Alien logo, some flash cuts of people screaming, then silence with no one can hear you scream.
Which isn't even said, it's just text across the screen.
Yeah, it does not translate well to an audio podcast.
No, but it's a very beautiful piece of music. So go back and listen to it or watch it on YouTube. You'll get some great pleasure from it, but it doesn't translate very well for us to have a 5-minute interlude on the show.
No, it really doesn't. Listeners score the movies here. They scored this a 4.5 out of 5. Letterboxd coming at a 4.3 out of 5. And Mark, where did our AI companion come in?
How does she score? Is she like a 5.5 or a 5, or is she just like, can she go anywhere within the?
She can go anywhere within anything. I don't know how she scores.
I'll give her a 4.2. I think she's going to go 4.2 on this. That's not a reflection of my score. That's just where I think she might go with this.
Gladys scored this a 5 out of 5, adding that this is a perfect sci-fi horror movie, and there is not another movie that comes close.
Yeah, I think all right. I'd take that. I think that's a fair comment to make. I'm not going to argue with it, that's for sure.
She's winning you over. You and Gladys will be dating soon.
And that's why I'm hesitating on agreeing with her so heavily.
it won't be long, and she's going to be your bit on the side. You'll be chatting to her and everything. We open in space and we see a ship called the Nostromo. I can never pronounce it. Super early fact, because it wowed me. Like, this thing's big and they show you on screen it's big. We actually have some dimensions of how big it's meant to be. So this thing is 800 meters long. It's ginormous. Wow. The thing it's towing is 1.4 kilometers in length.
That's insanely big.
Yeah, so these are huge ships, and when you put that context into the movie, it makes a lot more sense as to why people are so far away from each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the closest thing that I have as reference, I'm not sure how familiar you are with this here where you are down south, but are you aware of the Humber Bridge?
Yes.
So to walk across the Humber Bridge and back is half a mile.
Yeah.
So that's usually what my point of reference is. It usually takes us about half an hour to walk one side and the other back. It's a long bridge. It's a very big. I think it's like one of the biggest bridges in Europe, I think, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah,
that's
it's
wildly off track. But yeah, it's a bridge, and that's what I use for context in terms of measuring things.
Welcome back to Bridge Podcasting. Next week we'll be talking.
I don't know why I got so deep into the bridge thing. That's what I use to measure things in terms of scale nowadays.
Okay, now we all know that. Can we move on?
Yes, so the cargo worked out to about 4.5 bridges.
You did. We get some shots through the hull of the ship, and I'm going to say it now so I don't have to keep saying it. Set design for this movie is second to none.
It's incredible. It really is. And the thing is that's so cool about it is everything within this set is functional.
Yeah.
So when they open doors and things like that, it's not like someone behind set presses a button to make the doors open. No, they actually made them work. The buttons that open the doors throughout the ship, they're all fully functioning buttons. Everything that's built within the ship itself as well is all done practically. I mean, it's weird really in terms of context because it is quite dated. It's a futuristic vision of what the 70s might have been, but in terms of what we have nowadays where everything is done on touchscreen, especially stuff later on when you find Ripley trying to get herself out on the escape pod and stuff like that, and she's having to type everything on key. It's like if Elon Musk had his hand in this now, everything would just be done on an iPad.
Yeah.
So in terms of the futuristic elements of it, it doesn't really hold much weight. But I think if you take it back to what it was in the 70s, it's a very industrialized, futuristic feel, which is really, really cool. And I really appreciate it. But one thing I love about this movie so much is I'm a big Red Dwarf fan. I love Red Dwarf. It's in my heart, it's in my soul. It's what I grew up watching as a kid. And this whole miniature experience that you get throughout this Alien film always brings me that level of nostalgia that I had from watching those really sort of crappy, fake miniature sets. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this movie is, because the miniatures in this movie are absolutely faultless and look impeccable even now today. But when you see sort of like that miniature floating across screen, it reminds me a lot of the stuff that I used to watch as a kid growing up in Red Dwarf, and it's really cool in that side of things.
Yeah, see, I get exactly the same, but not for Red Dwarf. This is Star Wars to me. Like the set designs, everything is ported straight from Star Wars. It's exactly the same.
This a couple of years later, was it, before the first Star Wars? Is A New Hope the first one?
Yeah, New Hope's the first one. So this was, they wanted to get more space movies out, and there wasn't really any coming out, and this was shelved for years. And then Star Wars was released, and there was this big rush to everyone had to make a space movie, and this script was already there. So that's why they went with this. That's why this was one of the first.
Dan O'Bannon scripts.
Yeah.
Dan O'Bannon, by the way, for many people who don't know, he's a fantastic movie maker. He hasn't written movies. He hasn't written a lot of movies in his career, but the movies that he has written, you will all know, such as Total Recall. My mind's gone completely blank on the rest of them that are there. But
Alien.
The movies in his, Alien, Total Recall. I think he hasn't done many in his career. I think there's like 6 in total, but the 6 that he has put out are all fucking stellar projects.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the set design's great, but on a rewatch, this opening gambit is very, very slow. As we go through, we see all bits of the ship, and then the ship starts coming to life. So a button starts flashing, and then we get the wake up pods. How young is John Hurt?
He is. And just to give context to people who are saying where you're saying it's slow in the build-up and it's giving you lots of shots. If you imagine the closing credits to John Carpenter's Halloween, where he's showing you 3 shots from every single location within the movie and fixating on that, it's kind of like a foreshadowing of that with this movie, except instead of showing you it in the closing credits, it shows you it in the opening credits of all the shots, which are going to be very vital to the outplay of the movie. You see things from the hull and the deck and all those other spaceship elements, and I think it's really, really cool, especially upon multiple rewatches when I know what's going to happen in these locations when you're seeing them early on as the credits are rolling. I think it's brilliant, and especially the opening credit sequence as well, where you get the lines coming up on screen, and then they finally turn into the letters, which is so cool. And you've got Jerry Goldsmith's score as well. I'm going to say about the score now because it's something that I'll probably harken on about later on. So I just want to get out of the way. The score to this movie is fucking amazing. I absolutely love Jerry Goldsmith's score to this film. And I think in terms of horror movies, this one flies under the radar a lot because it's not very synonymous like stuff like John Carpenter's Halloween or John Williams' Jaws score or The Exorcist, Tubular Bells. You don't instantly recognize it, but as soon as you hear it, especially in this opening credit sequence, you're like, oh yeah, Alien does have its own score. It does have its own score. It doesn't play up in vital moments within the film like a lot of the others do, like Jaws and Halloween and such. But as soon as you hear it in this opening credit sequence, you instantly recognize it. And I think it's a really, really fabulous score. And the way it plays out throughout this movie is vital to a lot of the tension and the claustrophobia that's felt throughout. So I'm going to get out of the way now because it's something that I heavily gush about within this movie is how iconic this score is and how underappreciated it is. So I just wanted to say it early doors so I'm not fully repeating myself later on.
Yeah, it is really impactful, and it's quite a subtle score. But when they use it at the right times. They use it a lot later when we get a lot of scenes of Ripley running down corridors, and there's not a lot going on. But this score is what keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's a very, very good score.
Yeah, brilliant, really is.
The wake up pods, I like these. They're cool. Again, set design's great. John Hurt is about 12. He's so young. And his boxer shorts are huge. Like,
I think this is like a 70s thing, is it not? Like,
well, no, because later on, Ripley's pants are not huge. Like, did they use all the fabric from Ripley's pants to add to John Hurt's shorts? Like, they're ginormous.
I read a thing. I don't know if you've got this for facts later on or not, but I read a thing that said that Ridley Scott spent like £2 million of the budget to CGI edit pubic hair out of Sigourney Weaver's crotchular area for those final scenes because she refused to shave. Is that something you have for facts later on?
It's not something I have for facts. I did read
it.
I don't know how much truth is in it.
But I've seen this film a million times, and like for 1978. I don't feel like CGI was good enough to fabricate something like that. I think it's got to be a fairy tale story, hasn't it?
And all I'm going to say is it was the 70s, so I don't know. That was the style back then, was it not? Unshaven.
No, but the paycheck she's getting for this movie, if someone was like, just shave the beaver, we need you to be in. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be derogatory in any way, but I mean,
we're
like,
not even out of the opening scenes, and we're already in a downward spiral.
I know, but what I'm saying is like the money she must have been getting for this film, like, surely she didn't really, and she wasn't credible at this point. I know she'd done a couple of things before, but this was really her main.
She's not even top billing on this. Tom Skerritt is.
Exactly. So, like, if they're saying to her, we really need it, she doesn't really have the star power to be like, I'm not doing that. How dare you tell me to shave my legs, kind of thing.
Well, we've got some facts about Sigorney Weaver. She did have quite a bit of sway in this movie, but we'll get to those in facts. The setup of the family dynamic is brilliant. The fact that there's nothing integral to the plot here, it's just they've all woken up, they're all bitching and arguing about bonuses and how many shares they're getting and how long they've been working and how long till they get home. Just normal day-to-day conversations. it's a really good setup, and it shows them as a unit. They are a dysfunctional family, effectively. And I think
And that's the thing.
great.
I think coming off the back of movies like Star Wars and stuff like that, to showcase such a normal dynamic in this way, where people are bitching about the union and it's like right of pay and we should all get fair shares, and this is just 9 to 5 for them. It's not a case of we're renegades saving the planets and taking on the universes one ship at a time. This is just a job. This is just a job for them. It's just a 9 to 5. These are office workers, and they're just trying to get shit done to get home to their family. And I think that's such a really, really cool element to try and explore within such a futuristic sci-fi movie, because that's not something we've ever seen before, because everything else is always swashbuckling heroes within this era. And I think it really sort of grounds it in reality and makes it a lot more relatable to viewers in terms of the way they set these characters up and how normalized they are.
Yeah, and let's be honest, that'd be the truth. If we worked in space, it wouldn't be oh wow, I'm in space. It would be oh, I'm working.
No.
It doesn't matter where I'm working. If I'm still working, I'm still moaning about it. That's how it works. Dallas goes to see Mother, which is the nickname for the onboard computer. I love how in the 70s and the 80s, like they assumed you could type anything into a computer and get the answer that you want. Because when he's asking Mother what's going on, it's not like a please give me an update on this. He's like, hey Mother, how's it hanging? It's that kind of thing he's typing into the computer. And Mother's like, oh well, I woke you up because we got a signal from an unknown source, and you just go and look at it. He's really good as a captain because he's really open. He comes out and goes, look, Mother's found an unknown signal. We need to go and investigate it. Instantly the talk of, well, do I get bonuses for this? And this is where Ash steps in, who's the medical officer. Can't stand Ash. We'll talk about that later. But he comes in, he's like, well, actually, as part of your contract, you're legally obliged to go and check it. And if you don't get paid at all. I was like, oh, you're such a dick.
Yeah, he is. And I think the thing is with Dallas as well, like Dallas is the captain of the ship, and something that will, I don't want to try and jump the gun too much, but his character is leader, but also order follower. So when he is woken up by Mother and he's like, we need to go to this moon landing. We found an unrecognizable message. Rah, rah, rah. We need to go there. You can tell he just wants to get the job done and get himself home. And he's sort of like side-eyeing Mother as if to say, oh, right, okay, fair enough. He goes back, he tells everybody else. And it's like, look, we're contracted to do this. Let's just get the job done, wrap it up. Let's all just get gone. And they're all bitching about how, oh, well, we want equal cuts. And it's like, well, it's a salvage mission. Whatever we recover is equal shares between the rest of us. Everybody gets a fair share, and you all get what you're contracted to. So he's like, he's kind of following the rules, but you can also see through the performance of Dallas that he empathizes with everybody on board ship, which is it's one of those ones where he's like, he's not necessarily the boss, but he's everybody's mate, and that translates well, I think, on screen, especially later on, which I'll pull up when we get to it. So remember this point on Dallas. He has to follow the orders because that's his rank, but he is at equal standing with everybody else. Yeah,
and like they decide they're going to go down, they're going to investigate the planet. So they get on their little landing craft and they head down, and they all head down. When they get there, like I'm going to kind of do this forward and backward, so stick with me. So when they get there, Dallas, Lambert, who's the navigator, and the executive officer who's second in command, Kane, are the ones who go out to investigate. Now, I've seen Alien literally hundreds of times, and there's two things I never understand. Number one, why did Dallas think it was a good idea to send the two highest ranked officers and the navigator to go and investigate an uncharted planet? And two, when they come into land, it is the smoothest, most beautiful, perfect landing in the world. And as soon as they touch the floor, everything explodes. Like, I don't understand either of these. Just like, why did everything explode? Because they didn't hit anything. It's like the perfect landing, and then shit goes crazy.
Right, you need to watch the director's cut because it explains a little bit more and gives a bit more context to this development as who's going out and why they're going out. But again, this is one of the points I was making regarding Dallas. When they land on this planet, it's almost like he sabotaged the landing, because for him, they land on the planet, things go to shit, the ship's broken, and in his eyes, it's like, right, well, the ship's broken, we can't continue with the mission, let's all go back. And it's what's his name?
Ash.
Chestburster. No, Ash is still on the big ship.
I've got Kane. John
Kane.
Kane.
Yeah, John Kane. They're talking about how far it is to get to where they need to in terms of doing the recon mission that Mother sent them on. They read out the details. It's like, oh, it's so kilometers away. And then Kane turns around and says, so walking distance. And the camera pans back to Dallas, and you can see him just roll his eyes as if to say, why the fuck did you say that? Because now you've said that out loud. Now we have to walk there. We could have just said the ship was damaged. We have to abandon mission and we need to go back. And it's almost like it sets it up in a way that he almost sabotaged the landing in order to just not have to go and do the exploration mission, so he can go back to the ship, everybody's safe, and he keeps everybody well preserved. They can continue on with their mission, go back into cryo and go back to Earth. And I think you don't get, it's really difficult because I love and hate the director's cut of this movie in regards to the theatrical cut. Ridley Scott adds a lot of stuff to his directorial cut that is fucking criminal in terms of the franchise continuity. But the stuff that he does add in terms of the suggestions towards Ash, especially later on, you get a lot of details regarding Ash's sort of sinister nature, and the camera lingers onto him a lot more in terms of stuff like his inclusion and his pushing towards finding the xenomorph and bringing it on the ship and letting it do what it needs to do. But he also focuses heavily upon Dallas's character and the insinuations he has in terms of sabotaging the exploration mission to preserve his crew. And I think when you watch the director's cut and you see these kind of snippets that you don't get in the theatrical, it really brings a lot more to Dallas's character that's missing from the theatrical. So if you watch the theatrical for this re-review, then that's kind of the stuff you would have been missing out on, I think.
Yeah, I did. I've also got the distance. So it's 2,000 meters they walk. What's that in bridge terms?
How many meters are in a mile?
No, we're moving on. So Dallas, Lambert, and Kane make the walk. When they go out of the ship in their cool spacesuits, and the spacesuits in this are awesome. This like cold and windy terrain, 100%. Was inspiration to John Carpenter, who at the time was putting ink to pen for the thing. Like this, I was
going to say, what came first, Alien or the Thing?
Yeah, Alien. Thing was 82.
Was the Thing 82, right?
Yeah, Alien was 79. 100%. Like this landscape inspired John Carpenter to how he crafted that winter world is very much reminiscent of this march they take.
I mean, the films, if you put them side by side, are exactly the same. They go off, kinda. They explore something they shouldn't do, they bring it back to the ship, and it takes over the ship. Alien and The Thing are identical movies, just one of them has Kurt Russell and one of them has Sigourney Weaver.
They eventually arrive at the ship. The female characters in this movie need to be listened to more. When they arrive, Lambert goes, "This isn't a human ship. We need to go back to our ship."
Yeah.
And Dallas is like, no, we're here now, so we're going to go in. It's like, you don't just turn around and go back. Back on their sort of main ship, Mother has now translated part of the signal, and Sigourney Weaver sat there going, "It's not a distress call. It looks like a warning." Now, if Mother has got the ability to do this, they could have waited 10 minutes for Mother to go, "Actually, look, this is a warning. Don't go." but instead
Yeah.
they just trudged off and done it. And this
And I
is
don't
where
know
you
whether
get
this is the theatrical or the directors, but Sigourney Weaver is like, we need to tell them, and it's Ash who interrupts
Ash.
her, and he's like,
Yeah.
he's like, no, they're there now. Let's just leave them, see how they do. They'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
What he actually says is, well, if it is a warning, they're going to find out what the warning's about in a minute anyway. It's like,
Yeah.
fucking, like you don't going to radio them or anything. Just let them find out what it is.
I just want to ask you, not without giving any spoilers, did you know about Ash first watch?
First watch, no.
No, I don't think anybody probably could they?
No, like synthetic sport. We didn't give a spoiler warning. Hey, this is a spoiler heavy show. Anyway, synthetics weren't really a thing until Alien, and Alien done it so well.
Yeah.
Like synthetics in Alien, I think are arguably the best representation of an AI humanoid in any franchise.
What, better than T2? Oh, you know I'm always going to come back to T2 because that is the greatest movie of all time.
Back on the alien ship, they're working their way through the halls and they discover the giant alien sat in the chair that we don't get any context to what that is here. Is it Covenant or Prometheus? They tell us all about
Prometheus,
these people.
yeah. And the thing is as well, like I've recently just worked my way through this franchise maybe a couple of months ago, and then obviously, so you got 1, 2, Alien Cubed, even though it's a 3, it looks like Alien Cubed. You got Resurrection, then you have Prometheus, and then you have Covenant. I ended up on the last 2, obviously, because they're the ones in the trilogy. But it's so cool. It is so cool when you watch those movies last, and then you come back to rewatch this, like I did for this show, because this is just pinpoint at what they did in Prometheus is like, it's so identical. Like most movies would just sort of go with what they want to go with and think, yeah, the audience's mind's just going to fill in the blanks. No, this is set accurate. Everything you see in this first Alien movie, the set design is recreated pitch perfectly for the Prometheus movie, and it picks up exactly where this one is, and it's just brilliant. It really is. And I could gush for about 3 hours on how much I love Prometheus and Covenant, and I'm going to have to restrain myself heavily within this episode not to do so. So let's move on.
You are, because you and me will fall out because those movies are garbage.
Oh my God.
I'm putting them in a poll soon because now people know we disagree.
We need to thrash it out on that, mate, because I tell you now, those are the best movies within this franchise.
So this alien that sat in the chair has got a great big hole in his chest. Instead of leaving the ship, so they found an alien. They've never seen alien life before. They found a giant 15-foot alien sat in a chair with a big hole in its chest. Kane's next decision is to abseil deeper into the bowels of the ship to see what else he can find.
Before he does, and I just want to ask you quickly, do you think that they've never found alien life before in this point? Because in Aliens,
but
Bill Paxton
Alien
says specifically it's another bug mission, so he's very well aware, and I know that's set 100 years forward to the events of this one, but I just feel like I don't know. I feel like just because they don't say it,
they establish it in this when they're playing with the facehugger later.
Do they actually? Do they say this is the first
encounters of alien life? Because
the first
encounters, first encounters of intelligent alien life.
Intelligent. That doesn't mean to say that it's not prior alien life before this, because none of them seem really. When they walk into this cavern and they find that big engineer, as he's known later on in the Prometheus movie, in his big sort of turret ship, which looks like a big gun cannon, which is later described as a control system. None of them seem really that shocked by it in terms of like, this is the first discovery of alien life. I mean, they've been floating around the galaxy from what we can only assume is hundreds of years by this point. The first time they've done that, floating around in outer space for years and years at a time, you would feel like they would be a little bit more surprised by what they've encountered.
Yeah, but they do establish it later that there's no and like this guy sat in the chair is 100% intelligent. He sat at some sort of control system, and he's 10 foot tall, and he's wearing clothes. Exactly that. But John Hurt goes down into this tunnel bit, and he comes out on a walkway, and you see the room full of eggs. He cracks me up when he's trying to. He's like, "Oh, there's a mist," and he's trying to put his hand in it, and then he falls.
It's like the most Benny Hill thing ever. Like his fall is like, "Oh, I'm about to do a whoopsie."
It is very much is.
I mean, they could have at least made him actually slip or fall on something, but it's like the most theatrical comedic fall I've ever seen in my life.
He then examines the egg, and as he's examining the egg, this looks cool actually. When he scans the egg and you see inside it, that's brilliant. And then it opens like a flower, and we get a face hugger, which is the scariest part of the entire Alien franchise. These are 1,000 times scarier than the xenomorphs. Like, forget the aliens queens. I'll take on 3 alien queens before I take on 3 face huggers. These things are nasty little face rapers. They're horrible.
Well, they're spiders with scales, and it's weird. So I'm definitely not on board for these.
They're spiders with scales and a giant penis they force down your throat and impregnate you. They are not
and
nice.
This is it. They are rapey. The rapiest thing. The rapey spiders. That's the only way I can describe them, is rapey spiders. And that is terrifying. One thing I like about this scene in particular is that when it does jump onto John Hurt, onto Kane, it just cuts to black. We don't actually see the attack itself. You just see it bursting from the egg. And I think that's so much more effective than what it would have been showing it. I mean, they do this a lot in the later movies where they show the face hugger actually attack. And I think technology's come on a long way since this first movie. So maybe later on in those movies, it is a little bit more effective. But I think they made the right call to cut to black when they did. And I think the transition itself as well is that they cut from Kane straight back to a sort of very normalized, steady conversation immediately back on the ship. And it's like you have this sort of intense sort of beating in your heart. It's like boom, 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 and then it just brings you back down so quickly into a normalized situation. And it's incredible. It really is, in terms of the pacing and the atmosphere building within this movie.
Yeah, and what they cut from here, and they go to the 2 engineers who are repairing the ship and their conversation with Ripley, which is really funny. So Ripley is now in command on the ship, and they're asking about additional pay and like lots of things, just generally being a pain in the arse employee. And there's loads of noise and there's loads of steam. And Ripley takes full advantage of the fact that they can't hear her, and she tells them to fuck off. And
but the thing is about this thing that's so funny is the fact that they can hear her, because what they do is the steam machine itself that's blowing the steam is when they talk, they turn it off.
Yeah.
They turn off the steam, they say what they want to say, and then they turn the steam back on when Ripley's talking. And then once she's finished talking, they turn the steam back off to say what they have to say. And then when she tries to talk again, they turn it back on as if to say, "Oh, I can't hear you." And she's just like, "Fuck off."
Her management style very much mirrors my own. And I know we live in a world now where you can't tell staff to fuck off, but I advocate for it and do it on a regular basis.
It gets the stuff done.
It does. And any of my employees who just may happen to be listening, because I know some of you do, fuck off. Anyway, Dallas and Lambert arrive back at the ship and they're carrying Kane. And this is where we get the first real battle of power. And this is so intense. So Ripley lets him in the first door and says, it's 24-hour quarantine. Like, the book says you're not coming in. And Dallas is like, I am the captain. It's an order. And she goes, yeah, that's nice. But protocol kind of says I'm in charge now because you're potentially infected. You stay there. And then Ash opens the door again, like lets him in. It's like, oh, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad, because the thing is as well with this scene is like Ripley is following the book, and if they'd have all listened to her and let her do what she needed to do, everybody would still be okay in the end of this movie. In fact, the whole movie, everyone should have just listened to her and everybody would have been fine.
If they'd listened to her and Lambert, both of them, both the female leads in this are like, they're telling you what to do, and us guys are going, no, don't worry about that, and then we all die.
And Parker as well, when it's telling them to put her on ice.
Yeah.
But the thing is about this scene as well is it kind of, what I really appreciate about it is Dallas in this moment. Dallas is willing to compromise the regulations in order to save Kane because of the responsibility that he feels based on going out to explore this ship. And I think that's, I don't want to keep going back and forth about the director's cut because I don't necessarily like the director's cut. It adds stuff to it, which we'll get to later on, that I dislike. But what it does in terms of adding much more substance to Dallas's character earlier on is when you see him fold in this moment, it's all down to the level of guilt he's feeling because he's put his crew in this situation and he's jeopardized their safety in order to fulfill this mission that they've been given by Mother to explore this planet. So he's just completely lost all consciousness in terms of what should be right in terms of protocol. He knows that they should go into quarantine. He knows the right thing to do in terms of the safety of everybody else is to not come aboard the ship and go into quarantine for 24 hours. But his level of guilt of what has happened to Kane, he's willing to forget all that in that instance to try and get back on this ship. And when Ash lets him back on, it's just fantastic. And then, like, it develops into this scene. Do you want to pick up the pace a little bit with the walkthrough so I can get to where I need to get to? Because I'm going to end up jumping ahead.
They fix the sort of pod and they fly back up to the mothership, and this is where they start to like experiment on the creature, if you will. It's wrapped around Kane's face. They cut his helmet off, and then they decide they're going to basically make an incision, and we get acid through the floor. This scene is fab. Like, that acid effects as it drips through the floor is brilliant. The face hugger comes off all on its own. And we talk about bad choices in this movie, in movies, a lot. Like last week, we said the brothers were idiots. That is the worst choice in the world I've ever seen in this movie. So the face hugger comes off, and you get Dallas, Ripley, and Lambert go into the room where the face hugger is now not on Kane, with no weapons, no net, no nothing, which is fine. Yeah, cool. You're going to go look for it. They leave the fucking door wide open. Did you spot that the door was wide? That, It's like, what are you doing? Face hugger autopsy. So they find the face hugger.
Before we get to the face hugger autopsy, I just want to touch on a few things that really bring to my attention here. Is like, we get a cool interaction with Ash and Ripley here, where Ripley she confronts Ash and she says to him, when Dallas and Lambert are off the ship, I'm in charge here, and whatever I say goes, which is really, really key conversation to the rest of the movie, and especially with the reveal of Ash later on, because she turns around and says, I'm in charge, and what I say goes. So you opening that door is sort of like breaking the rules, basically. If I told you not to do that, you shouldn't do that. And he's like, oh, I forgot. Which, as we know with law within this franchise, there is no way he forgot that is a protocol for her to be in charge. And if she said that, he's gone against his code in order to do so, to open this door. Which I think is a really, really cool conversation between the two. And as well, there's one thing in the director's cut which doesn't happen in the theatrical, is when they're doing the autopsy. No, autopsy is a wrong word to use in terms of the dissection of the thing when it's on.
They're examining it.
Examining, yeah. Lambert fully goes up and slaps Sigourney Weaver across the face, and apparently she properly slapped her as well, like to the point where Sigourney Weaver's gone on record and said, in that moment, I wanted to genuinely cry tears because it hurt so much, but the cameras were still rolling. And in terms of the character I was playing, I kind of had to hold it back. Because Ridley Scott has been known before for telling all of the cast and crew within this movie to just be horrible to her in terms of showing animosity towards her, so that when she was portraying this character as a reclusive from the rest of the group, it would translate well on screen, which is a horrible, horrible thing to do in terms of movie making. That's like Hooper level Texas Chainsaw Massacre style stuff.
Yeah, but she is a boss bitch.
Tell me how you feel about this.
But one thing that makes me really curious is why they decided to cut that from the theatrical when Lambert slaps Ripley.
No
And I don't know
idea.
whether that's kind of something that compromises Ripley's character in terms of, because the thing is, like, in that moment, what the decision she makes to refuse to let them on that ship, as an audience, we're all being like, yeah, that's the right thing to do. But when Lambert slapped her in the director's cut, you're kind of like, oh shit, like, you actually were willing to let them all die in order to do so. And I think maybe the producers who did the theatrical cut maybe looked at that and thought the audience maybe won't respond to her too well, seeing Lambert take this kind of action against her, and maybe will empathize more with the other characters than her. And then when it comes to the final scenes where she is the mainstay, it might not translate too well. But I think when you're watching the two contrastingly, I think it's really interesting to see the differences. I'd be interested to know what other people think about that as well.
Yeah, let us know. You can call into the show. We told you how to do that at the beginning, or email, and Marc will read your email question in an accent. They do the face hugger examination when the face hugger's off and it kind of dies on the floor. The internals of this look incredible, and I'm going to save the incredible lifelike internals for facts because it blew my mind how they done this.
I can imagine.
It's so clever. Ash said they need to take it back with them, and Dallas agrees. And Ripley confronts him in the corridor, and basically Dallas turns around and goes, "Look, I'm here to run the crew, run the ship. If it's science stuff, Ash is the science officer. I defer to what he says. If you picked up on sexual tension, there is. So it was originally written in the script that they were going to have a sexual relationship.
Yeah.
And it was the decision of Sigorney Weaver who challenged Ridley Scott, saying it's not needed. Like, just the insinuation is enough. And Ridley Scott backed down and changed the script to accommodate the lack of sex scene that we were going to get earlier in the movie.
Yeah, and I think it's just kind of a given, really.
Yeah.
You know, these people are floating around in space for years and years at a time. It's natural behavior that there's going to be some sort of relationship developed between them. And I think that's something that's emphasized a lot more within some of the later movies, is how spending this longevity with on board this ship is how naturally relationships are going to form between cast members and sexual relationships, especially. So I don't think we needed to see it to know, because I immediately, as soon as I told those two characters, I was like, oh yeah, they've got something.
Yeah,
without
but
even like, you know, you piece them together immediately.
Yeah, but it was Sigourney Weaver who challenged Ridley Scott, apparently done it on her own and done it on set in front of everyone. And Ridley Scott went, yeah, okay.
So, I think that's a good call to make, because that's one of my biggest criticisms of Alien 3 is her relationship with Charles Dance's character, the Doctor. I think that cheapens that movie a lot, and I think it cheapens her character a lot, and I think I could have done without it, given how strong of a female lead she is to see her succumb to something so unauthentic. Yeah, you know, in a way, without being like misogynistic or anything like that. Like, I just think like the way that unfolds cheapens her character, especially considering the journey we've been on for her for the past two movies. And then when we get to Alien 3 and she fulfills that sort of cardinal urge, like you say, it cheapens her character a lot. So I'm glad they made the decision not to do that here in this movie.
Yeah. Kane wakes up, and this is great. So he wakes up, they all laugh and chat, and they're like, Kane's like, so what's the plan? And Dallas is like, oh, back to the freezer. We're all going to go back nanites now. And he's like, we're not going anywhere until I eat. And they get this scene where they're all having dinner and they're all joking and laughing. And I don't need to tell you what happens. This is the most iconic scene from a horror movie. This transcends horror movie. Everyone knows this scene exists in Alien. It's
been
good.
Parodied so much throughout the years.
Yeah, and it looks as good now as it did in 79. There are so many false myths around this scene that I'm going to dispel them all in facts. And I'm sorry
I was
if
going to
you've
say,
got
save me the pressure of doing it now, because I was about to go on
yeah.
a tangent.
No, if you've got some like idealistic nostalgia around this scene, maybe facts might be painful this week.
Oh,
But this
nobody
scene,
knew it was coming. Nobody knew what was going to happen. They all had scripts, guys. They knew what was going to happen.
Cue Space Funeral. This is the way to go. I said it on Starship Troopers. This is how Scott from the You Run podcast wants to go. I want to be ejected into space because this is awesome. I love this. This kind of stick him in the airlock, open the airlock, and he just drifts away. It's beautiful.
Yeah, which is in many ways right and great that they do that. But the alien is still on board this ship running around. They've seen it
Yeah.
escape the canteen. I think they would have bigger priorities right now than having a funeral for Kane.
You'd think so, but yeah, that is a good way to go. That or a Viking longboat that's lit by arrows as it floats across a lake. Those are the two options I want.
Is that how you'd want to go? I don't know how I would like to do it. I don't know. I definitely don't want to be buried.
No.
Because like worms and things like that just eat you, which is weird.
Yeah.
But then also being burnt is all, do you know, it's all very weird.
Yeah, and to be fair, it doesn't really matter after I've gone. Do kind of do whatever you want.
It doesn't really when you think about it. But I mean, like, if you had to pick, like, what are your preferences? Because I know some people have strong beliefs on what they want to have when they go. Do you want to be buried or do you want to be cremated in terms of normalized routines? I know we can't. I know as much as you would like to have a Viking longboat, I don't know whether we could necessarily do that today.
No, I think cremated, or I don't know, maybe cast me in resin and use me as a coffee table.
Can you do that by law? I know I've seen like things on Facebook where people are like, "Oh, I taxidermied my granny." I don't think you can actually do that, can you?
In some places in the world, apparently you can. You can taxidermy people, and you can also cast them in resin, the same as you do like bugs. So, like, yeah,
cast me so weird.
Cast me in resin as a coffee table, give it like a double thumbs up.
Oh man, I definitely don't want that in my house.
With my headphones and the mic.
Just coming down for a bowl of cereal in the morning and you're just there in my living room like, hey.
We haven't mentioned it yet, but I'm going to now. Let's talk about Jones the cat and how this cat led the poor engineer Brett to his death. So yes. Brett follows the cat down into the bowels of the ship, and a now fully grown alien takes him out and runs off with his
body. Did you see it in the chains?
Yeah, up in the high chains it comes down and then, like, I don't know, tongue punches him in the face and kills him.
It's a really, really cool shot, and I think for somebody who would watch this movie for the first time, I don't think you would ever see it.
No.
You would never notice that's what it was within the chains. Another thing I want to talk about with this room, why is it so wet?
I'm assuming condensation. Where it's a spaceship, there's condensation built up from them inside and all the exhaust fumes. And
he's drinking it and like bathing in it like it's like rainwater.
Yeah.
Like it's pouring down from the ceiling. And like, it's not rain because you're in a spaceship. There's no atmosphere. Like, where is this water coming from within this area?
I think it's just dirty condensation water that's on the ceiling and he's thirsty. It's not nice. It's after this that they realise the alien is in the ducts and they take a plan to close the ducts off and basically flush it down the way they want to go with flamethrowers and then get it into the airlock and open the airlock and drift it out to space. Again, Dallas, because now Kane's dead, so you've got Dallas and next in charge is Sigorney Weaver. Dallas goes, I'll do this because I don't like being in charge. I just like doing manly man things. He is that character.
He's a hero, man. He's the everyman. He's trying to do what's best for the team, and he feels like he can be the one to sort the situation.
Yeah.
I like Dallas. Dallas is great. He has a great beard as well.
He does. The scenes in the duct are another level. Like the set design effort in a duct that is, I don't know, 2 meters by 1 meter is just massively overkill but I really appreciate it. And I love the fact that they're down in the main part of the ship. They're tracking Dallas and they're tracking the alien. And then they're like, oh, he's coming towards you. He's right on top of you. He's right on top of you. And then the alien pops out and like full on jazz hands. Literally what?
Yeah, we don't see a lot of the alien throughout this movie up until the closing act, and I think that works more.
But the alien actually jazz hands. He comes out and goes, ah!
It does do a rah like it's a fucking trick-or-treater. Yeah.
It jazz hands him. It genuinely, it literally pops up and goes.
Like jazz.
That's what it does.
Man, you and that fucking soundboard, honestly, I swear to God.
It's the best thing I've ever done.
If I was with you right now, I would beat you over the head with it.
You know why?
You like jazz?
It's because you like jazz. Now he's gone as well. So Dallas is gone and Ripley is in charge. And Lambert has a meltdown. She wants to use the escape pod. She wants to get off. And I love the way Ripley handles this. She doesn't confront her. She very calmly says, look, you can want to use the escape pod all you want, but the escape pod does not take 4. And there are 4 of us now. So that's not an option. We're going to stick with Dallas's plan and we're going to flush the alien out into the airlock and blow it out to space.
And one thing again, I don't want to keep going back and forth, like I say, about director's cut, but I think one thing that the director's cut that really fleshes out the characters a lot more in this moment is you see a lot more of Lambert throughout and her trepidations regarding the situation, and she's the most, like, I watched this movie a million times and I always watched the theatrical cut and I always hated Lambert as a character. I always thought she was fucking terrible. But then I watched the director's cut. We get a lot more stuff that sort of showcases her as a character and how every situation that's arising, she's just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be involved. This isn't my job. I just want to go home. And in this situation where she's talking about drawing straws, it brings Parker's character to the forefront as well, because he, all the time throughout this movie, is talking about equal pay. He's talking about how everything should be split fairly. And then when it comes down to the drawing straws, which you don't get in the theatrical cut, you only get in the director's cut, he's like, no. Like,
no, we do. That is in the theatrical. That is
is that in the theatrical cut as well? It's like, this isn't fair. It's like, no, if we either all go or we all stay and fight. You know, like that's not fair between everybody to draw straws that one of us has to stay. And I just think that's so powerful to give the development that this story necessarily doesn't require to have them fleshed out as well as it is. And each person has their own individual sort of arc that flows throughout this movie in such a subtle way. And when we get to this point here, it really all sort of comes full circle for me, where you see Parker being like, I'm not bitching about the pay. I'm not bitching about wanting more money than everybody else. I just want everybody to be with an equal stance. Yeah. And then you see you see Lambert's fear coming to the forefront. She's like, I just want to get off this ship. I don't care. Let's just draw straws. We'll just, one of us has to stay. We'll all just get off. And I just think that's so clever to do that in such, it's just one particular scene within this entire 2-hour run movie that just showcases everybody's emotions coming together. And I think that's testament to the writing of this movie in just such a simplistic scene. And I guess if you're not paying attention to it, you don't notice it. But for me, I just thought it was fucking brilliant.
Yeah, and I also like here Sigourney Weaver's arc reaches a pinnacle here where she turns around to Ash and she's like, I don't need you now. I can go talk to Mother myself and I'm going to get my own answers because I think you're full of shit, basically. Yeah. And she goes off to look at Mother and she basically says to Mother, what's going on? And Mother's like, can't tell you. Sorry, don't have clearance. And she's like, well, I'm overriding like everything, like super override. Tell me everything. And this is where Mother reveals that Ash has been given a special mission. His mission is to retrieve the alien specimen. All other directives are secondary and the crew are expendable. And Ash sort of pops in behind her and is like, oh, hello, and tries to kill her. Like this whole scene where he attacks is brilliant. So they're sort of fighting outside a mother, and this is where Parker comes in and absolutely demolishes Ash, hits him in the head, and takes his head clean off his shoulders. And
Yeah.
I am not a fan of the milk substance they use for synthetics in this franchise.
I
It's
am.
a weird choice. Like,
I
make
think
it
it's fucking
oil
brilliant.
or green or orange or something that's suited to an android, not this kind of semen colored cream that sprays out everywhere. It's very odd.
I think it looks fucking brilliant, and it gives that a level of ick that's required for this scene. I just want to give a shout out, especially to the practical effects, especially this moment where Parker knocks his head off, and then he still continues to attack. And
Yeah.
I guess from like a modern standpoint now, you can pinpoint the cuts and the edits in order to,
Yeah, you can.
like after this scene, you can see that it's recorded from Ash's shoulders down, so you know he's still got a head attached in a sense, and you just see the prosthetic flailing behind him, and then later on again when you see Ash on the table, you know that that's a cut from prosthetics to him as a character with his head poking out of the table and stuff. But I think for 1978, when this was it 78,
79.
79 when this movie came out, I just think this is fucking flawless filmmaking. It really is.
It's really good, and like the effects, especially when his head's on the table, so they put down what you clearly a prosthetic head, and then it turns into his head. You can see it, but it still looks great, and he adds a whole new level of fear when he's on this desk. So they get him powered up again, so his head's talking, and they're like, right, what's the deal? How do we kill him? He's like, they can't be killed. And then he gives this big monologue of how he admires them. They're the perfect predator. They are the perfect species. And this is where Parker just tortures him. Like, well, fuck it, there's three of
he
us now.
closes it off with one of the most chilling lines ever, and he's like, I empathize with you all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, like you guys are in for a world of hurt, and he knows exactly what is coming your way.
Yeah, and Parker tortures him because the escape pod is back on the plan, because the escape pod takes three. It's a space movie. This is the first movie that done it, but it has become a trope. You can't escape a spaceship straight away. You can't just go to the escape pod and fly away. You need to go and get something first. In this movie, it's antifreeze, and they send Lambert and Parker to go and get the antifreeze. They get ambushed and killed. And the amount of alien they show in this sequence is perfect. They show just enough to make it scary without focusing on the fact that it's a guy in a suit. So you get some shots of the mouth and the mouth, like the mini mouth punching out. It's some great shots of the tail where it's like creeping up behind him. Like, this whole thing is brilliant, and it's done without any jump scares. It's just creepy and horrible, and you know that they've had it. It's so well shot.
And I think in terms of gore and stuff like that for this movie, like there is very minimal gore throughout. The only really gory scenes are the chest burster itself with Kane's character earlier on, and Parker's death. When Parker gets killed and he gets the hands claws through his chest, that's really the only blood you get to see. I mean, the next death after that is Lambert's character, and all you see is the creepy tail coming up between her legs. And again, you preempted my rapey suggestions about this movie earlier on, but this is a very rapey, insinuating scene in terms of the way the tail comes up between Lambert's legs, because she's a female character and what that's going to insinuate. And again, with like the face hugger on the jet, I mean, it is a rapey thing in essence. It's impregnating somebody via a hole in a body, I suppose. That's the only way I can describe it. And I think that's down to the artist that Ridley Scott brought in to do the work on this movie, which is H.R. Geiger, a German artist who is very, for those of you who are familiar with his work, he's very sexualized in terms of the way that he blends organic and mechanical in the way that he does with his art forms. And I think, don't get me wrong, I think his art is fucking incredible, and he won an Oscar for this movie alone.
Yes, he did.
For his
design work.
inclusion, for his
Yeah.
design work and stuff in this movie, and there is no denying it. How incredible it is. The design of the xenomorph and stuff like that is faultless, and I think you really get to showcase his work properly, not so much on the Nostromo, but when they land on the moon and they go inside the alien ship and you see stuff like the engineer in his control ship and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The stuff that you see, if you pay close attention to what's displayed within the walls and the design work that's gone into creating this ship, which we later find out is a ship in essence, in the later movies, is just fucking brilliant. And again, what goes on in the rest of the franchise and the rest of the movies is all down to his vision and his work that was brought into the movie due to Ridley Scott's insistence on bringing him on board for this project.
And it works
Amplified the
perfectly.
budget massively.
Yeah. We ask questions on this show. I've got a question to ask now, but before I talk about that, I completely forgot. I meant to talk about it the other day. So on the Descent episode, we clearly asked why there was a pool of blood in the bottom of the cave.
Yeah.
Gareth at Video Tasties, who's a member of the You Run Podcast Network, happens to be close acquaintances with director Neil Marshall. So he asked Neil Marshall on our behalf, and Neil Marshall gave us an answer. So
Brilliant.
This is what Neil Marshall said. Did nobody notice the cave was littered with corpses? It was a fucking abattoir in there. And it wasn't necessarily 100% blood. It was other fluids and stagnant water, all fairly gross.
Yeah, Neil, I love you. I think you're an average director in terms of what you've done in your career. The Descent is fantastic, but you've done some fucking shit shows. You're a great guy, I'm sure, in real life, but that is a fucking piss poor answer to the question we asked you.
So I'm going to ask another question now and see if we can get an answer from Ridley Scott. Why does the ship have a self-destruct button? Like, I just assume there's never a scenario when you will need that.
But this is a perfect scenario when you would need it.
Yeah, but like,
but
this
it's
is
sci-fi. Every ship has a self-destruct button. And I don't understand why, because my car that I drive on a daily basis does not have a self-destruct button.
No, and Sigourney Weaver sets it, and then for the next 8 minutes, and this is not a lie because I counted it, for 8 minutes we see her run through corridors, which looks amazing, sounds incredible. It builds so much tension, but it does not translate well to a podcast. So Sigourney Weaver goes on an 8-minute jog with some cool music is basically what happens for the next 8 minutes.
She does. And again, I'm fucking going to kill momentum and I'm going to do director's cut, theatrical cut shit. You watched the theatrical for this, right?
Yes.
So the director's cut, Sigourney Weaver, which randomly takes a detour down a ladder when she's massively trying to escape this ship. And by the way, kicking Jonesy about in the fucking cat crate, she kicks it through a fucking door. And I'm like, do you want this cat to survive this fucking ordeal? Because you are booting it around like a rugby ball in this cat crate. But anyway, cat lovers aside, if you love cats, don't watch Alien. It's fucking very traumatic at the end. She goes down a ladder and she detours down off into this ladder and she discovers Dallas and you said earlier, what's the guy in the chain room?
Brett.
They're in the wall, and what Ridley Scott added upset a lot of Alien fans here because obviously we had the franchise after this. We had Aliens, which is monumental up in terms of Alien fans. They all adore this, and a lot of them adore it a lot more than they adore the original. But Ridley Scott added that the alien itself is self-sufficient, and what it did when it even though you don't see Dallas or Brett die, he takes them down to this stairwell area, and then you see them manifesting into an egg, which would then create more xenomorphs, which makes Ash's theory about how they're the perfect specimen and self-sufficient more substantial. And in
but
terms
destroys
of
the franchise.
But destroys the franchise as a whole and destroys the whole idea of the Queen Mother that we get in the sequel that has to birth these eggs. So it caused massive uproar with fans when this director's cut came out because it kind of squanders anything that comes after it. But again, in terms of Ridley Scott's vision, it kind of also contradicts itself later on with what he does with Prometheus and Covenant. So I don't know why he made the decision to do this other than just to piss people off. Because
I think maybe when he done it, this was in his head a self-contained movie, and it was never getting a sequel. And for that, in that vein, it does work.
It does work. Don't get me wrong, and it's a really impactful scene because you see Dallas in the wall, similar to what you get with some other installments in the franchise, where you see them sort of trapped within the wall, surrounded by alien content, like you do in Stranger Things season 4, for example. And Dallas is begging for Ripley to kill him, and she just flamethrowers him and Brett against the wall and just incinerates the pair of them. And you see Ripley just fall apart in this moment. So for that reason, and for a context of the actual movie Alien itself, it's a really cool scene. Fucking hell, in terms of shitting on your fan base, the sequels that come after it, it's piss poor to include it in your director's cut, I think.
Yeah, it genuinely is. Ripley reaches the escape pod and she flies away. Why does the Nostromo explode 3 times? The first 2 explosions are exactly the same footage reused at a slightly different angle.
I don't know, because I don't know how bombs work in space. And I've seen this happen a few times on like space films and stuff like that, where you get like aftershocks and stuff like that. So I didn't question it too much, but now you mention it, I'm kind of like, yeah, why? But I have to believe there is some science behind it.
Yeah, Ripley prepares for stasis, and I'm going to say, as a young boy, this was a holy fuck moment for me when I saw Ripley in tiny pants, a crop top, and no bra. Now, I've seen and heard people say that this undercuts her whole character as a strong, independent woman by sexualizing
Why? Because she
her.
Wears underwear.
Yeah, no, because apparently they're sexualizing it. I disagree. I think people look at this.
They are.
I think they look at it too
her ass crack
hard.
out like a builder's bum. She's not trying to be sexy in this moment.
And I think people need to remember that at the beginning they come out of these pods and they're in their underwear. Now, Ripley has proven all the way through she is Miss Protocol. She follows everything by the book. So if the book says she gets into her underwear to go into stasis, that's exactly what she's doing. I don't think there's anything sexual in this. I think this is people just looking too deep.
I think so. Yeah, I do. I think people are looking for something that's not there.
Yeah. Before she settles in, she goes over to her desk, and when she gets to her desk,
First looking alien. Where?
She spots the alien. This alien blends in so good as well. It looks like part of the control panel. And she retreats and she goes into where they sort of hang up the spacesuits.
Before we get there, can I just go into what's your stance on the situation right now? Because that alien is just dormant.
That alien is fucking terrified.
Terrified of what? It's a fucking alien.
It's curled
killed like 10 people.
But now it is curled in the fetal position and it is actually shaking. It is scared.
So I have a lot of different takes on what I want. No, because like she pulls back. If it was scared, she'd just go up and stab it with a stick. I have a lot of different takes on where I think that this was sort of going. And if you dissect the movie the way that I have, it kind of leads you to various different paths. But for me, the alien itself was not trying to attack anybody. Every instance where they encounter the alien, it's because they approach on it. So Brett at the beginning, going into the chain room, is just chilling. He's trying to sleep. He's trying to rest in the chains. Brett interrupts it. Brett died. Dallas was chasing it through the fucking air vents. So Brett got there. Dallas died. When Parker and Lambert go later on trying to find the air cooler, they stumble upon it. It's not like the alien is hunting them down. It's just trying to chill the fuck out and trying to rest and go to sleep.
Yeah.
So I feel like everybody is infecting it and then getting in its face, and it's just natural animalistic responses to attack. So in this instance, I feel like it's intelligent enough to know that the ship's destructing and it can't get away from the ship itself. So the only thing it can do is get aboard the escape pod
and hide.
But it can't fly it. It can't fly it itself.
Yeah.
And he knows that he needs Ripley in order to navigate it and get it away. So he can't kill Ripley. So I feel like it's very intelligent being in that essence. And I feel like if you look at it from that standpoint, it's like, had everybody just left it the fuck alone, they'd have all been
fine.
all right.
That works. It 100% works. Ripley's basic instinct moment getting into the spacesuit was an eye opener. This time I forgot that was in there. I can't remember. Oh shit!
Yeah,
like it's really wow.
Yeah.
Now she gets in her spacesuit and she straps herself in, and then she gets in the chair and she straps herself in the chair, and she's armed herself with a harpoon gun, and she opens the airlock, which sucks the alien out, but it grabs onto the sides of the door, so she harpoons it. Now, I like how determined the alien is, because you see it climb back up the harpoon like rope and tries to climb in one of the engines, and she has to blast the engine to take it out. And I think that's the one time in this movie the alien is genuinely scary. It's out in space, but it is still determined to get in. And I think
it's a different ending in the director's cut.
What happens in the director's cut? You've told us all the director's cut. Do the last bit. What happens in the director's cut?
I'm sorry, I didn't want to. It just kind of happens. I can't help it. It blasts. She hits it with a harpoon gun, and it floats out into space. But then, as the shutter door goes down, the harpoon gun gets trapped in the door, so it's sort of like dangling on the string. So instead of trying to claw its way back in, it just sort of swings itself into the engine, and then she just turns it on, fires it up, and it kills it. So there's no sort of trying from the alien. It just sort of swings in open space,
just naturally
swings into it just naturally floats into the thing, and then she turns it on and blasts it away. It doesn't show any sort of like clawing back to try and attack her again.
Yeah. But both work. Both have the same end result. Alien gets fried in the engine. She records her final entry log before she and the cat get into stasis, and then the credits roll. This movie is iconic. There's no spoilers. Our roundups of this are going to be short, and they're going to be highly scored. But we have got facts again. I found some 1-star reviews that are going to make Marc's blood boil. So we're going to do that as well. But before we do all of that, we're going to take a very quick break.
There's nothing better than hanging out with your best friends chatting horror movies. At Voices from the Mausoleum, we have programming that covers everything from found footage to gaming, interviews, and even the first horror morning talk show. Come join us. We're all friends at the Mausoleum.
So be sure to go and check out Voices from the Mausoleum and all the other network members at yourunpodcast.com. While you're there, go and check out our merchandise as well. We've got some really cool T-shirts and hoodies and other cool stuff that you can get. And Mark's favourite T-shirt that I am going to send him one very soon.
You need to.
Colonel Cochrane. Who do you think you are? Pinhead T-shirt, which is all available at yourunpodcast.com. Let's do some 1-star reviews. We haven't done these for a while, so when it's quite clearly a 5-star movie, some 1-star reviews that will upset everyone. So these are both from Google. First one's from someone called Chase, and he's gone with, the movie copied Among Us. They're in a spaceship, and Among Us created spaceship and space. Now, first
Among
of
Us
all,
is in the video game.
Yeah. Now, firstly, Among Us is based on The Thing from 1982. Secondly, it was made in 2018, and Alien came out in 1979.
Fucking Gen Z's, man.
Yeah, Biden, deal with him for me.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
Thank you. Up next, we have James. So James said, it may have been effective back in 1979, but it has aged as well as milk, with the only exception being the visual effects, which still look amazing. It's way too predictable. It ticks off every horror cliche in the book. There is very little else to the story and the characters that make it worthy of a second viewing.
Wow. They clearly didn't watch the right movie.
No, someone deal with him.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points.
What movie is that from?
And may God have mercy on your soul.
That's from Billy Madison.
Classic.
So yeah, now we've listened to idiots. Let's listen to some people who actually know what they're talking about. Let's listen to all of you in 3-word reviews. Almost everyone played. In fact, everyone played this week. Facebook. We got Becky, who went with "Hug My Face," and this is Becky. This girl loves horror. To which she got a reply, which was Hannah, who's a Horror Geek 1987. Change hug to fuck.
Yeah, that seems more appropriate.
It really does. Slasher played as well. We have a slasher one, which is rare. We got CCM, Sigorney Kicked Butt. And they're a horror and true crime account. Really cool account. Over on Threads, Derek Gray, Absolute Fucking Perfection. And they're a mixed fan account. Catkin Colors, No Touchy Pods. And they're a mixed fan account. The Queer Judas, Forget the Cat, and they're a writer. Bill's Planet, Best Horror Ever, and they're a mixed fan account as well. Over on Instagram, Trashy Gore Baby, Visually Stunning Masterpiece, and they're a metal and horror account. Nightmare on Woodsboro Lake, who's Josh, brilliant YouTube channel. Gut Busting Time. Kay Lampe, who's Kate, who's quite frequently appears in 3-word reviews because she normally gets it spot on. Listen to Women.
Yeah,
again,
she definitely got it spot on this week.
Nailed it. Wolfman's Got Nards. Hear Me Scream. No, Barry, not in space.
No one can hear you scream.
No one can hear you scream. That's Wolfman's Got Nards. Brilliant YouTube channel. Go and give them a follow. Attitude Cult 666. Ripley's Space Panties. And they are a horror clothing brand. Cats and Horror. Avoid Creepy Eggs. And they're a horror and cat account. And honestly, like, this is the perfect movie for that account. They love horror and they love cats.
They must have been more traumatized by fucking drop kicking Jonesy in a box than anything else in this movie.
And finally, Moist Strawberry, which is a cool Instagram handle. Absolutely fucking epic. And they are a horror account as well. My time in TikTok purgatory is over and people are finally seeing my videos again. This might be an in and out feature because I can't help myself. There's too many idiots on TikTok that need to be told. I see too many. Honestly, throughout the course of 24 hours, I must go to stitch about 10 videos and stop myself because I know it will end up in a ban. I shouldn't be on that app. Anyway, TikTok Talks is back on deck with horror movies and shit and Dave B movies. Where would you like to start?
Dave B movies. Let's go.
Okay.
Hello. So we're talking about the first installment of possibly the greatest movie franchise of all time. Definitely the greatest sci-fi franchise of all time. Definitely the greatest horror franchise of all time, in my opinion. As Alien is the first one, it spawns this entire series, and it's just brilliant. It's dark. It's scary. It's one of the few films as a child that did actually scare me. Because I've always been obsessed with space, and the thought of life on other planets, but it never occurred to me these would be evil, monstrous life which could actually hurt you and potentially come to Earth. For some strange reason, as a child, that just wasn't on my radar. But yeah, Sigorney Weaver is absolutely fantastic. Possibly the greatest female action character of all time. And now the debate, Alien or Aliens. For me, Aliens tip it because of the human element with Newt. But yeah, fantastic movie. Highly recommend.
Yeah, agree with everything. Where are you? Aliens or Alien? Aliens or Alien?
I'm Alien over Aliens, but I'm also Alien Resurrection over aliens. So that's a wild debate that we could do for fucking hours, man. But
Yeah,
I'll
see,
get to that in my roundup.
I'm an aliens man. Also, Dave's a great account. Go and give him a follow on TikTok. Links in the episode description. Did you notice he had the copy of the?
I saw, the quadrilogy.
Yeah, awesome.
But do you know what's weird about that when they release that as the Alien quadrilogy? Quadrilogy is not even the right word for that. It's a tetralogy.
Is it?
It is, yeah. Quadrilogy is not even a thing. It's a made-up word.
You like jazz?
That's what I just heard. That's all I heard when you explained that to me.
It is. Quadrilogy is not the definition of four. It's a tetralogy. So, like, when they released the Alien quadrilogy, it was just a made-up word. It was a made-up word. It's not even a
works.
thing.
I know what it is. I wouldn't know what it is that you just said. Like that means nothing to me.
But that's
Like,
only because you know the Alien franchise. That's why you know it's a thing. But it's not actually a thing.
Okay. Horror movies and shit. That's a massive cup.
That is a massive cup.
Okay, now we can talk. Alien. It really taught us that claustrophobia can be a character. The fact that the confined environment adds to the heightened tension and dread through the entire film is absolutely genius. That's not even to talk about the amazing set designs, the amazing creature designs, all which help add an air to this film that continues to ratchet up the dread constantly throughout the film. Now let's talk about the characters. Lambert completely breaks down. You have everybody else like Dallas who has to keep his secrets because he's the captain, so he gets confidential information. You have the science officer, Ash, who has his own plot and his own directives, which essentially go against life in general. And then we come to Ripley, right? Ripley is a reluctant hero. Her one goal throughout this entire film, from the minute that the creature is led on board to the end of the film, is survival. She will try and help as much as she can, but her one goal is survival. How is she going to live through this? She never loses sight of that goal, and she constantly keeps moving towards it. She doesn't have the time to feel sorry for herself, and she just continues to move.
Yeah.
Yeah. Strong opinions, and most of them I agree with. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Horror movies and shit, a horror movie podcast. Go and check them out. Really, really entertaining as well.
For
Let's
those
do
of you who
some
are
facts.
watching online, he had a fucking awesome Care Bears t-shirt. I don't know if anybody else picked up on that.
He did. And the biggest coffee cup in the world. Like the coffee cup took up the whole screen. So facts for this, I've got quite a few because it's one of those movies that's just riddled with facts that need to be shared. The blue laser lights that you see over the eggs that create that kind of mist effect, they were borrowed from the band The who were testing out lasers in the soundstage next door. Ridley Scott didn't have those.
Awesome.
He's like, is that The Who? Those lasers are cool. Excuse me, please. Can I borrow your lasers?
That's so cool.
Let's break the myths about the chest buster. Skip forward 30 seconds twice if you don't want to hear it. The chest buster scene was not filmed in one take, despite the myth. The scene was filmed twice. On the first take, the chest buster didn't get through the screen, didn't get through the chest. They needed to reset and reshoot it. That failed. So where it went wrong, you can actually see that. You know the scene where you see it trying to burst through? That was the take where it didn't come through. Everyone knew about it because they'd all read the script. That they knew that something was going to burst out of the chest. It was kept very secret as to what extent that would be and what it would be. So the reaction from Lambert when she gets splattered with blood is a genuine shit. I didn't know that was coming. I saw an interview with Sigorney Weaver where she's like, we were all so naive. She said, like, they set the set up, we all got in position. She said, and then they moved plastic screens around all the camera crew and everyone.
And we was in raincoats.
Yeah, they genuinely were. And she said, we're all like, okay, this is cool. She said, then when it happened, we're like, oh, it all makes sense now. But yeah, it wasn't a big secret.
I mean, you hear so many myths about this and how like nobody knew what was happening and everything that was going on and all the rest of it. I mean, one of the big mainstays for me was Dallas's character. I can't remember the actor's name. He was really into filmmaking at the time.
Tom Skerritt.
Tom Skerritt, yeah, he was really into filmmaking at the time. So apparently he was the only one who knew, along with John Hurt, because obviously he was in the situation himself because it was bursting out of his chest. Apparently they were the only two that knew what was going on. John Skerritt was because he was wanting to make films himself, so he was like following Ridley Scott around like a blue ass fly, trying to figure out all the ins and outs of how to make movies and things like that. So he was aware of what was happening. When it flashes on Lambert, I think her genuine reaction is genuine due to her unaware of the level of blood that was going to splash on her face. But I also heard a tale that Parker, his character, when I always forget the actor's name who plays him, he's incredible. Regardless, anyway, he apparently was like went and hid in his trailer for like a day and a half because he was so traumatized by the events of what had actually happened. This is all fabricated stories. I think the one with Lambert and her genuine shock in the moment, I do think that is a genuine reaction to the splash of blood on her face. But the fact that nobody knew what was happening just feels so falsified to me, because everybody would have had a script to what was happening. They would have all walked into set. They would have all had to know how the progression of the movie was going to unfold in order to how to react in this particular scene. So it's just
exactly that. And it's one of those stories that's developed over time and it's become like an urban legend, but it's not true. Ridley Scott got so bored waiting for this movie to get the budget agreed. So there was lots of back and forth over the budget, and they weren't going to give him some money. Then they were. While he was waiting, he decided to storyboard the entire movie, every scene, start to finish. When he was done, he sent that to the studio. When the studio got his storyboard, they doubled his budget.
Yeah, from 4 million to 8.
Yeah, just off
they
the fact
ended up on 11. 11 by the time they'd finished.
They use shredded condoms for the tendons in the alien's mouth, which I thought.
Cool.
You know, the ceiling as they're going through, you've got like the grate ceiling.
Yeah,
like in the corridors. That was made of upturned milk crates that were sprayed black.
That's cool. Yeah, I know a lot of the walls and stuff like that was like upturned egg cartons and stuff like that throughout.
Yeah, it was, and also and in one of the, I think it's in the medical room, there's a machine on the side which is actually a coffee maker, and it's the same coffee maker that lives on the back of the DeLorean in Back to the Future. Same brand. So Jones the cat is an incredible actor. So there's a bit where the alien comes towards it and it hisses. So how they done that is they had a screen, and behind the screen they had a German Shepherd. So they would have Jonesy there sort of just chilling and relaxing, and then they'd drop the screen, the German Shepherd would appear, Jonesy would arch his back and hiss, and then they'd put the screen back up for Jonesy to calm down.
That's traumatic for a cat.
It's very traumatic for a cat.
I'm not a cat person. I'm a dog man by heart, but I just mean like, that's not cool.
No, got a brilliant acting performance out of him though.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So the dead face hugger that they kind of autopsy and pull apart looked so real, and it's because it was. They used oysters and sheep kidney to recreate the internal organs. They had to film it really quick because they realized after 2 takes that under the studio lights, it all went bad. And fish and kidney going bad under studio lights is not good.
Oh, man, the smell.
Yeah. So you mentioned about H.R. Geiger. So it was his original illustrations that inspired the look of the alien creature. Geiger insisted that it had no eyes. So the alien doesn't have eyes. And they said that his idea was that makes it a lot more bleak and a lot more sort of sleek in its appearance. This led to fan theories that have now become canon. So the fan theory is that the alien uses like electrolocation, the same as a shark does. So it's all sensory in its giant head. That's not
like a bat, like echolocation, or
yeah,
is that different
yeah.
from a shark?
Yeah, it's kind of the same. So a shark doesn't use noise; it's like an electrical impulse that comes out from its nose. So it's kind of the same, but without the sound. But that was a fan theory that later become canon because someone went, "Do you know, that's a really good idea. We've never thought how they actually hunt. Let's have a look online. Oh, look, the fandom have done it for us. That's how they hunt."
But this is the thing. I wish more movies would fucking do that, because 9 times out of 10, the fans usually know exactly what they're talking about in terms of like people who go into production with movies and like, oh, how should we continue this first film with like an exciting story that's going to grip everybody? Just go online. We've already done it for you, and we've probably done it 10 times better than the writing room you're sat in.
Yeah, literally, if there's any movie that hasn't got a sequel and any studio struggling how to make a sequel, go hit Google, go hit some of the chat rooms, even do a post online. How would you sequel this movie? You will get 100 scripts better than anything your writing room will ever put together.
It's like today we got the news drop that Cillian Murphy is not going to be included in the 28 months later
28 years.
sequel.
They skipped months.
Yeah, 28 years later sequel that's coming out. And me and you both like messaged you like, yeah, good. We don't want him back. And it's like, exactly, because it makes no sense for his return after such a long period of time. It's like, what the fuck is he? Is he Rick Grimes just fucking free roaming this apocalypse on his own? No, these are intense killing machines. He's not equipped to survive this. He was lucky he survived the first film, let alone fucking surviving 28 years to manifest himself to be able to be in this sequel. So it's like, we don't want him. We don't want him back. As cool as it is, we don't want him back. We want this sequel to pick up with new characters. And it's like, and that's because we're fans, because we know. And they're like, oh no, but look, we need to do a sequel. And Cillian Murphy was really good in the first one, and the fans want him back in the second one. Yeah, we did, like 10 years ago. When the first movie came out. It's like, we don't want him now. It's too late. You missed that opportunity. The window's gone, and now it's not going to make any sense whatsoever. So it's like, listen to the fans, man. We know what we're talking about with these movies.
We nearly got someone very different as Captain Dallas, but he turned it down because he had another offer on the table. We nearly got Han Solo, Harrison Ford, playing Dallas.
Funny you should say that, because who's the guy who played Dallas?
Tom Skerritt.
Tom Skerritt. He did a Han Solo. He did a Harrison Ford with this movie. He was like, he didn't want to be involved with it originally when they offered him the first sort of money to come in. He was like, he turned it down. And then Ridley Scott came on board, and then the budget got amplified, and then Sigorney Weaver came on board, and Ian Hubb came on board. The script got revised, the budget got increased, and then they offered it him again. And he said he didn't want to take a pay. He wanted to do a Harrison Ford, because Harrison Ford, of synonymously known for the Star Wars franchise, he didn't want to pay. He wanted a cut of the profits.
God, how clever is he?
Yeah, and Tom Skerritt did the same thing with the Alien movie. I don't know how well that paid out for him in the overall perspective, but I can imagine he's doing fucking very well off the proceedings right now, as opposed to taking a paycheck back in the day.
Yeah, and I imagine he done really well, because this was the first ever R-rated or 18-rated movie to get a toy line marketed at children from an 18-rated movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So so it definitely paid off for him to take a percentage as opposed to a paycheck.
It did. Any guess at how long the Xenomorph and the Facehugger combined spend in this movie?
4 minutes. No,
it is.
No,
it is. No, it is.
No, it's actually.
It's 4 minutes 38 seconds. They get a screen time.
I love this movie, and I know my facts, but like that was a guess.
Which I thought was great. Final fact for this: so all of the parts for this movie were written as unisex parts. So they wrote them that way so they could cast a male or a female in whatever role they wanted, and it was more down to who they were casting as opposed to the part they were playing. The only role in this movie that was assigned a gender was Ripley. and that part was written as a man. It was written as a male character. And it was when they auditioned Sigourney Weaver, it was Ridley Scott who went, all the other parts are unisex. This part is now unisex because that's who I want to play it.
Yeah. And I think that is probably one of the best calls he has ever made in his career, because she has gone on to be probably one of the most iconic characters in sci-fi horror history.
Iconic characters in movie history. Ripley is up there.
I know excluding this movie alone, but when you think of Sigourney Weaver and Alien, you think of her in the mech suit in Aliens.
Yeah.
With the whole gun blaster thing and the Reebok alien trainers that she's got on, the high top Reeboks and stuff. And fucking awesome, man. It's like one of the most iconic images in cinema to see her.
The thing is,
you used to see that all the time in like VHS highlights when you put a VHS tape in a player. It's like, like MGM, blah, 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 blah. And then it'd show you like flash shots of all the stuff that they'd had in their career. That was like one of the shots that they'd show was like her from Aliens.
Yeah, but like every time she's played the character, she's slightly reinvented it. And it's each iteration of Ripley is very different. So you've got this one. You've got Ripley in Aliens, where she very much is a fuck you, I am the boss. Then you've got her in Alien 3, where she went the whole hog and she shaved her head. Then you've got her in Resurrection, where she's that badass half alien, half human.
It's not even the same character. It's a different sexualized,
the
sexualized Ripley, but it's cool still.
Yeah, but every time she's done it, she's made that character. Like all of the characters have continuity. Like you could believe the story from 1, 2, and 3, and then 4 you can buy it's a clone. But they're all very different characters, and like there's an arc for Ripley that runs through the movie. She changes from Alien to Aliens, and she changes from Aliens to Alien 3, but the changes make sense.
And you mentioned earlier about her sway on the movies and how involved she is. When she got the script for Alien 3, she said, I don't want any guns. I don't want any guns. And that was incorporated to the story. So there was in a prison which didn't have guns because they was in a prison. So because she didn't want guns within the movie because she wanted it to be turned down in that essence in terms of gun violence. That's what they did. They catered the script around what she wanted in order to get her on board to do the movie. So they had no guns in that movie because it was a prison setting and they didn't have guns.
Yeah. We are going to play a game. So in space, no one can hear you scream. And because of this, in podcasting, Mark's not going to hear what I'm saying. So this is a new game. This may be the best game we've ever done. This may be the biggest disaster, but either way, it's going to be entertaining. So Mark's going to turn his headphones all the way down. And I'm going to say some lines from horror movies. And he's not going to try and guess the horror movie. He's just going to try and repeat word for word what I said.
All I know about this is you said, can you turn your headphone volume down? To which I replied, yes. I had no idea where this was going.
Yeah, so I'm going to say a line from a horror movie, and all you need to do is repeat word for word what I say.
Right.
It's really that simple. So if you turn your headphone volume down, I think
Shall
we
I do that
established
now? Because once I do it, I'm not going to be able to hear you.
Yeah, so if you turn it down, and then I'll start the game.
Right. Speak.
Can you hear me? I'm speaking loud.
No.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Hello? No? Up a little bit more. Can you hear me now? You can hear me now. Okay.
I can't hear you. No, I can just see you moving your mouth slightly. Can I put your screen on full screen so I can hear you?
First one. In space, no one can hear you scream.
It's like charades. Fucking hell. Do it again.
You're not meant to be looking at my mouth. You're meant to be listening to me. In space, no one can hear you scream.
Do it again.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
I got ice cream. Ice cream. It's alien. In space, no one can hear you scream.
Yeah. Number
It's
2.
Shiraz. I can't hear anything.
Turn it up.
I don't know why I'm shouting.
Turn it up slightly. Turn it up slightly. Can you hear me a little bit better now?
A little bit.
Okay. Right. Well, officer, we've had a doozy of a day.
Say that again.
Well, officer, we've had a doozy of a day.
Doozy of a day?
Close enough, yeah.
Do you know the thing is, I can't hear you enough to know if I've got it right or not. Yeah, the thumbs up. Yeah, you do charades. Do charades.
I'm not going to hurt you, Wendy. I'm just going to bash your brains in.
Say that again.
I'm not going to hurt you, Wendy. I'm just going to bash your brains in.
Something in the same in. Something in the same in. No.
We're doing one more because this is painful. He had the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
The black inside. It hurts inside. The black inside, it hurts inside. Is that right? What's the black inside, it hurts inside?
Turn your headphones up. Turn your headphones up. Right.
Did I do all right?
The first one was in space, no one can hear you scream. So you kind of got that one. The second one was, well, officer, we've had a doozy of a day. From Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Oh.
The third one is, I'm going to hurt you, Wendy. I'm not going to hurt you, Wendy. I'm going to bash your brains in.
What did I say?
Not that. And then the last one, he had the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
Oh, Halloween. How did I not get that? What did I say?
Not that.
Oh, that was hard, man. I don't know. You're not very movative with your mouth. You should have been more.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that game. That's a one and done. That's not. I had 8. I had 8 of these, but I couldn't suffer anymore. And they got harder as well. So I had, when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. I had, it's called elevated horror. It's time to play a game, and then, no, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel. We'd have been here for days.
The thing is, when you're reading them, you're looking at your screen, which is away from your camera. So you're turning your head to read them. So you're not even mouthing them to the camera.
That's never coming back. Well, we try these new things, and yeah, I'm sure there's some of our listeners who may have enjoyed that. Probably most of the listeners who like jazz.
You like jazz?
I'm going to round this up first. This is one of the best horror movies of all time. Everything is on point. The score, the set design, the characters, the pacing, the tone, literally everything. I could say everything we've already said in this review, but I'm not going to. It's a 5 out of 5 for me. It is not the best Alien movie in the Alien franchise, but it is the best horror Alien movie in the Alien franchise. And it's arguably one of the greatest horrors ever made. It's perfect. It's 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the casting from Sigorney Weaver, Ian Holm, John Hurt, I think everybody's fantastic in this movie. I think the writing is incredible. I think the direction from Ridley Scott is fantastic. I think the score from Jerry Goldberg, I think I want to go with that one. I'm not too sure. I've had a few beers since I started this episode. It's all fantastic. What we've already said within this episode is already there for you to listen to
You like jazz?
I fucking hate that soundboard so much. To understand how we both feel about this movie, I think it is a masterful sci-fi horror movie and probably one of the best sci-fi horror movies within existence. Now, is it the best Alien movie?
No.
Yes,
Simply.
it probably is. It is the best Alien movie. In terms of the Alien franchise, it is the best Alien movie. However, do I go to this movie? No, I don't. Time and time again, I would probably prefer to watch Aliens. I would prefer to watch Alien Resurrection. I would definitely prefer to watch Prometheus and Covenant.
No.
But that's
absolutely not.
Nobody asked you. This is my segment. But the thing that I love about this franchise so much is the variety that it has in terms of accessibility regarding of your needs from movies, whether you're a massive horror fan, whether you're an action fan, whether you're a sci-fi fan, whether you're so involved in deep lore. This franchise seem to have it all, and they do it at such a consistently well pace. Even if you're a B movie level horror fan and you like shitty B movie horrors, Alien Resurrection is the perfect movie for you, which is why it's probably my favorite in the franchise, because that movie is fucking god awful and has some of the most cringiest scenes in cinema. But I fucking love it, and I love watching it time and time again for that reason. And the fact that it's also perfectly crafted and well connected to this alien universe makes it all the more enjoyable for me. So I know my roundup is supposed to be about the Alien movie itself, but I can't help but discuss the franchise as a whole, because I just think it's one of the most consistent and well connected franchises within the horror universe. And without the original that set all that in motion, I don't think we would have had some. I mean, if you'd have released Alien Resurrection today, that would have been one of those blockbuster straight to bargain bin pickups that nobody would even be talking about today. But the fact that it's connected to this universe and is a follow-on sequel to this movie is why it probably has the same sort of stead that it has within the community. I'm digressing massively, gushing upon other movies within this franchise, but I just want to amplify how great this original is. The set design, especially the practical effects, the acting, the direction, the score. I think this is a pitch perfect sci-fi movie that has been replicated or amplified or tried to recreate time and time again throughout the history since it was released in 1979. I just think it is the pinnacle of sci-fi horror, and it deserves nothing less than 5 out of 5 for me. I think it's perfect.
But perfect scores across the board. Well, that brings another amazing, slightly crappy game version of the You Run podcast horror movie review to a close. A huge thank you to everyone who's listened and to everyone who's involved in the episode, be it 3-word reviews or TikTok talks. A huge thank you to everyone watching on Rumble as well. Don't forget to leave us a review on Apple or Spotify and tell your friends about the show. But until next time, maybe if she did do blowjobs, she'd still be alive.
Yeah, boy!
Yeah, I let it go.
I don't know what it is about that song that gets me all real funky inside.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. We'll catch you all next week.
Cheers, guys. See you next week.
Hey, everyone.
The You Run podcast.
The You Run podcast.
You want to die tonight?
Scott, I think you know who the fuck this is that's talking.
Cancel Marc. I was terribly offended.
Because after all, this is not our show. This is your show.